There's even less clarity today, if that's possible, surrounding the tragic killing of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. Shooter's brother came forward yesterday for the first time defending his brother's actions that he claims were in self-defense. Yet damning police video reveals a seemingly unharmed Zimmerman just minutes after Trayvon was killed. But in the end, do the details of the actual incident really matter? Or is this really a story about, well, so many things, but including race in America? And Andrew, break it down for us, because our viewers, as we'll hear in a minute, certainly had a lot to say.
And you hit it on the nail on the head there, Rich. It seems like the more evidence we get in this case, the less we seem to know about what actually happened that night. The details of the case still continue to trickle out, but as you know, the issue has become rather polarized. One side quick to say that Zimmerman was acting in self-defense. The other side saying Zimmerman's story just doesn't add up. George Zimmerman's brother broke his silence, speaking out for the first time about what he knows of the night Trayvon Martin was killed.
He didn't pull out a gun and shoot him. George showed tremendous restraint.
In an interview with CNN last night, Robert Zimmerman said he believes that this surveillance video shows his brother signs of injury. Here's a cuffed George Zimmerman inside the police department less than 30 minutes after shooting Trayvon Martin.
His nose looks swollen in that video. A lot of these injuries take time, 24 hours, 36 hours, to show the bruising.
According to a police report, Zimmerman said that Martin assaulted him, punching him and bashing his head on the concrete. The report notes he had blood on his head and nose and was treated at the scene.
There would have been George dead had he not acted decisively and instantaneously.
This police video provides some clues to Zimmerman's potential injuries. You can see an officer examining the back of Zimmerman's head. Seconds later, the video zooms in, but his skull doesn't seem bloody. Here's another angle as he walks steadily through the police station. His shirt and jacket appear unstained. And in this shot, no obvious signs of injury to his face. Zimmerman's attorney watched the video and says it's inconclusive.
I can't tell anything from this video.
Robert Zimmerman says his brother has medical records from that night, but George's attorney wouldn't confirm or deny that, saying that evidence will come out when the case is litigated. But from the other side, a much different story.
We have no answers. He's a very good kid. He's not rude. He's not disrespectful. He respects authority. He was a regular kid.
The information about what happened that night is coming out day by day, but questions remain, like why didn't the police bother to call the person who was on the phone with Trayvon during his final few minutes? Call logs show that she was on the phone with him starting at 7:12.
He said this white dude looked like he was following him.
It was raining that night, and Zimmerman thought there was something off about the 6'1" black man.
This guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something.
Zimmerman pursued him, even though police told him not to.
He was nervous. He said this man was getting close. So I said, run.
Trayvon runs, then slows down just 70 feet from his back door.
I'm here at Trayvon saying, why are you following me for? This man said, what you doing around here?
They fight, and what happens next is unclear. There are no eyewitnesses. Since his death, Trayvon has become a rallying cry, but to his parents, he's just their son, the son they lost that night in February.
That was my baby. That was my youngest son. He meant a lot to me. And I don't think the police department really understands that. I feel like I'm a U.S. citizen. I feel like I need justice for my family, too. I don't understand why they're protecting him.
Trayvon Martin's parents believe their unarmed son had been racially profiled and followed by Zimmerman prior to being shot to death. They are continuing their calls for Zimmerman's arrest. Rich.
All right, Andrew, thank you. And, you know, we've talked to you about this case, obviously, every night here. But you see the video in the police department. He walks in handcuffs. That's the part we talked about. And then we learn that the senior officer wanted to charge him with homicide, right? Manslaughter, excuse me. Manslaughter. And then from the higher ups it goes away. And forgetting the family tree and the influence and everything else, I'm curious, on the college campus, how much is this case being discussed?
It is being discussed, and I think one of the things that we need to look at more is what is going on in this city, because this seems to me to be something that, you know, has less to do with any individual in this case than it does with a police department that has been ripe with racism.
But do you think it's a Sanford, Florida thing, or do you think it's something much broader?
Well, I think it's broader than that. I think it's, you know, it's probably around the country, but look at what has happened in Sanford, Florida. Look at the turnover there because of cops who weren't doing their job. Nobody shoots an unarmed 17-year-old kid and then walks away from it without being charged with manslaughter. And still, what are we, a month after this happened? And he has still not been charged. You know, you've got to look there and say, what was it about the higher-ups in this police force that made them tell a senior officer, no, let him go? That doesn't make any sense.
Without either testing if he was drunk.
Yeah.
On any,
and by the way, you listened to his brother, and he was comatose on the ground, and yet 40 minutes later, he's walking around. There's no blood. There's no. So it's very hard to. It's very hard to believe.
I'll do you one better here in this case, and we're coming from a similar perspective here. But I'll do you one better in this case. The latest information: the funeral home that handled the body of Trayvon Martin says no bruises on the body whatsoever. So that doesn't match Mr. Zimmerman's story. And it's believed that a senior prosecutor drove 50 miles to the police station to make sure that Zimmerman was not charged. Somebody in power, and I mean real power, said, I don't care what the evidence shows, he's not going to be charged. And that police officer that filled this report out saying broken nose should be charged with perjury. Because, I mean, the video just doesn't.
Yeah, you know, you just hit on the last point, Dominic, which is justice. People are focusing on Zimmerman, and that's certainly where it should start. But I don't think it should stop there. I'm with you. The family, you heard the mother saying, I'm an American citizen. I got a right to justice. And people filled in their own storylines on this until you heard from the parents, until you saw the video, and it confirmed, if it was my kid, you know, walking there, we all probably agree he wouldn't have been shot that night, okay? Let's be honest. And secondly, I think I would have had a better shot at justice. Imagine if those parents haven't been as vocal as they've been, Andrew, for the last month. Do you think we would have seen the national attention to the story? It went a full month here before the story went national. And then finally, everybody picked it up, and then we say, my gosh, this isn't some third world country. This is America, and this stuff could happen.
We wouldn't even know Trayvon Martin's name if it hadn't been for the parents' persistence. But I keep wondering what the end game is in all this. What's a satisfactory resolution? Is it the prosecution of Zimmerman? Is it a conviction of Zimmerman? Because I'm not sure you can get that. Is it an investigation?
I think he's going to see. We've heard from prosecutors. He's going to see an inside.
The police department? Do the feds have to get involved here because the locals can't seem to handle this? And then the racial component of all this, which extends well beyond the bounds of Sanford, Florida. Does this not have a happy resolution until there's a dent in that?
If he doesn't see an inside of a jail cell, we're going to have problems. I mean, I'm talking not just in Sanford, Florida.
But there's the problem because of how shoddily it was handled. There's no baseline evidence here. That's why all this information is coming in.
You know what happened in that police force? They banked on the fact that nobody would care about an African-American kid that was shot, and that's what they banked on.
Dean, I am so glad that you said it, and I didn't have to say it.
I
am so glad.
Well, you said it every day this week. Who are you kidding, Dominic? All right, Andrew, we got some comments all week long on this.
Yeah, we've been asking for reaction both on our Facebook page and on our Twitter page, and let's go through some of those responses. On Facebook, Sean Hurst wrote in to say, try doing the stats for Kingston, Newburgh, and Ulster, all in New York's Hudson Valley. The fact is that yes, it has happened repeatedly there. Chuck McKittrick wrote us, yes, sir, it could very well happen in my neighborhood as well as anyone else's. Everywhere you go, there's hatred, greed, and corruption. None of this will ever change until we all stand together and fight for change. We also got some great responses on Twitter. An attorney, Harrison Esquire, tweeted us, Trayvon tragedy can happen anywhere if self-defense, imminent danger, and use of equal force laws aren't clearly defined. And Lola WUT tweeted us an interesting fact. More people have signed petition to prosecute the killer of Trayvon Martin than have voted for Newt, and that would be Newt Gingrich, in the primaries. Interesting fact, Rich.
All right, Andrew.